Good morning, everyone, and welcome to ConfedExpo. We're all about learning from outside the NHS here, and sparking great conversations is part of that. And today's session is set to do just that. Leadership and culture is at the heart of everything the NHS does, shaping how we deliver care and improve lives. So our next speaker is Sir William Atkinson. Sir William, a former head teacher at Phoenix High School, is known for turning the school around and inspiring both students and staff to achieve amazing results. Fun fact, he's said to be the real-life inspiration behind the head teacher in the BBC schools drama, Hope and Glory. We'll be hearing from Sir William shortly. If you have any questions, feel free to fire them through the Lido feature on the NHS ConfedExpo app, and we'll try and get through as many as possible. Now, please give a big, warm NHS Confed welcome to Sir William Atkinson.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I tell you, people haven't been to school for some time, have you? Eh? We'll do that again. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be with you this morning. I'm one of those people that are quite passionate about the NHS. Not only do I respect it, value it, I use it a lot. And at this time in our history, both the education system and the health service are going through what we call challenging times. We have massive issues about finance in both sectors. We have problems with recruiting and critically retaining the people we actually need. Some of our buildings are literally crumbling to pieces, yeah? We have issues about retention of staff, the use of agency staffing, which is particularly critical in school. My daughter is a primary school teacher, and she's got now 2 young children, so she works part-time. And she works with a number of agencies, and one of those agencies basically gives her 35 to 40% of the money they charge a school. And they're charging the school hundreds of pounds, yeah? So the use of agency staff is essential in many cases, but very problematic when it comes to consistency and continuity of service. With all these challenges and problems, sometimes you wonder, why do we bother? Well, we bother because it matters to our people who use our service. It matters to those people who come through the doctor's door, the hospital's door. It matters to those young people that come through the school doors. It matters very much. Not only do you save lives, you enhance life. In school, we prepare the young people for what we hope to be rewarding and fulfilling lives. In some cases, we actually in school transform the life chances of those young people. Back in the day, I came from Jamaica at the age of 7. I couldn't read and write because in those days, kids didn't go to school until they were 7. I went to the local primary school, and at the interview with my elder brother, my younger brother, there was a mistake made. My elder brother, 2 years above me, had spent 2 years in primary school, very fluent, able to read and write and all that stuff. I'd never been to primary school, and unfortunately, a head teacher at the time, very nice man, mixed myself up with my elder brother. So they thought I was 7, unable to read and write, and my elder brother was 2 years younger than me. So they thought I was 9. My young elder brother, they thought was 7, and a latter-day Renaissance character. Yeah? So I spent 2 years in a remedial class because they thought I was fairly thick. Yeah? And there was nothing overtly racist about this. It's just they made a mistake. Yeah? So I spent 2 years there. At the end of 2 years, they thought I was 11. I was really 9. And I took my 11 plus. And I failed my 11 plus. Subsequently, they discovered a mistake that they had made and put me to the age-appropriate class. Unfortunately, by that time, I'd internalized the fact that I was thick and couldn't learn. Fortunately for me, I was a good sportsman, good boxer, so lots of people wanted to be my friend in Battersea. Battersea was an interesting place in those days, not the gentrified area it has become today. 2 years later, at the true age of 11, I took my 11 plus again. Can you guess what happened? I failed it, yeah? I failed my 11 plus for the second time. I've given a talk like this some time ago, and I mentioned this fact to the audience, and and I said, I'm the only head teacher who's failed his 11 plus twice. For a number of years, I got away with that, and on one occasion, a bright spark put his hand up and said, I failed mine twice also, yeah? So I thought, that's bad news. A few years later, I said, failed it twice and became a knight of the realm. Nobody put their hand up. I won that one. Some time ago, I was invited to take over a school in West London. At that time, it was what they call a failing school. It was a school that had gone through some very difficult times, a very, very challenging environment. When I look at the area it was located in West London on a White City estate, an area of significant deprivation. Many of the young people at school in that area were transient. They were newly arrived people in the country. They would stay for a period of time and move on. Overall, in that particular school, somewhere in the region of 1/3 of the students turned over every year. Now, that meant that when they were inspected, the school didn't do well. In fact, it failed, yeah? And this is some of the articles that was written about the school. This is an article in the Daily Mirror. It said, it's a school lunch break and for some pupils, the chance to make money from drugs. I went to one comprehensive and found how easy it is to do business with young pushers. It took just 5 minutes to obtain cannabis with a promise of LSD and ecstasy to follow. The school I checked out amid mounting concern about the drugs problem in Britain's classroom was Hammersmith School in West London. At lunchtime, dealers from the school gather in the park opposite to sell cannabis and other substances to classmates. When I arrived, 3 boys were plying their dangerous trade from a bench while 4 others in uniform waited to buy. That's a lie. They didn't have 4 kids in uniform at that time. Yeah. So there's a bit of journalistic license there. This is an article that was written by somebody who came as a temporary teacher to school a few years after that. Day 1 set the tone. I was left in the gym with nothing but a tennis ball and instructed to magic a PE lesson out of thin air. As I faltered, a hand emerged from a cyclone of pupils and whipped the ball away. Thus the initiative was snatched from me, and thus I became acquainted with life in the school, dubbed by the Daily Mail as the worst in Britain. At times, bedlam passed for normality in Hammersmith School in West London. Pupils had to be physically restrained from leaving the classroom. 16 youth workers patrolled the corridors trying to coax them back. Truancy and staff absenteeism were rife. On a day of 9 false fire alarms, classrooms could have been rented out as vacant office space. And the reliable Daily Mail, independent inspectors believe this is possibly the worst school in Britain, and with good reason. A generation of inner-city school children, many from poor backgrounds, still being betrayed by a school which is consistently failing to equip them for life. This is the story of a school in despair, of a comprehensive so out of control that this week the Education Secretary will name it as one of the worst in Britain. It is so bad, so obviously failing its pupils, that it may become the first in the country to be taken from council control and handed to a team of experts. Very damaging view. Then Ofsted come along. Their views were key judgments, very little sense of coherent management and direction within the school, The implementation of policies and procedures is inconsistent between and within the main areas of the school. The school has no systematic and underpinning culture of monitoring and evaluation to inform its subsequent actions using clear, shared, and agreed criteria. There's no evident and distinctive positive ethos in the school. Some staff display a lack of self-confidence in their ability to ensure a suitable working environment. Damning. Now, I was invited to take over the school. I didn't want to do it, and I spent a lot of time saying no. But eventually, I decided I would embark upon the job. And I did it reluctantly, as I said, and I did it because I recognized that schooling had made all the difference in my life. The teachers I'd encountered from primary school to secondary school had given me the opportunity to ultimately become a teacher and a head teacher. This school would have been my third, and I thought I had the capabilities and the skills necessary to work with the people in the school to try and improve significantly the outcomes for those young people. And it had to be significantly, because doing marginally better was not good enough. It was not going to change the dial at all. So we were looking for substantial and sustained improvement within the organization against a background of low teacher morale, low student morale, and apathy among many of the parents. Many of the parents had failed themselves at secondary schools and didn't value what was going on. The fact that so many of their children were late for school, didn't receive homework, and had very poor tuition at school only further undermined their confidence in the school. So the task was very significant at the outset. One had to grow the morale of the students themselves to get them to believe that they could actually learn. One had to grow the expectations of the parents so that they realized that working with the school was in the best interest of their sons and daughters. And I had to acquire new teachers who were committed, who were passionate about working with the most challenging, some of the most challenging young people in London. After a number of years, and I do mean a number of years, somewhere in a region of 8 to 10 years, Ofsted came back and wrote this report. We changed the school to Phoenix, the name. The school, Phoenix School, is a remarkable school. It continues to transform the life chances of both students and their families. It can do this because of the school operates from a deeply rooted understanding and heartfelt appreciation of the challenging circumstances that many of the students come from. The school, this is about me a bit, is extremely well led, who receives excellent support and challenge, and that's important, support and challenge from a fully committed governing body. He is very ably supported by a cohesive senior leadership team who consistently deliver the school's vision. Their resilience is a key factor in the success. So the success of the school was not due to any individual. It was not even due to a really good, strong senior leadership team. It was due to everyone in the school playing an active part within that organization. Some of the keys to our success. Leadership distributed across all roles. All the teachers, all the staff in the school were encouraged to be leaders themselves, leaders of learning, leading in the areas where they operated. It wasn't sufficient to just follow the procedures that had been set down, although that was really important. It was important for them to go beyond those specifications, to go the extra mile as a matter of routine. Now, this applied to the people in the classroom, but it applied to the teaching assistant. It applied right throughout the organization to the cleaners that came in the morning who removed the graffiti at the outset. At the outset, graffiti was all over the school. We took it down, it came back. We took it down, it came back. We took it down, it came back. But eventually, we had less and less of it because the culture of the school was slowly changing and evolving. Yeah. The culture of the school was very important. We had a policy of equal respect for everyone in school, whether you're big, you're small, you're a teacher, you're a non-teaching member of staff, you're a student or a parent. Everybody mattered and everyone was equally valued in the school. And not only was it important to write this down, to codify it so everybody could understand what we were expecting, it was critically important that we lived it. So in our relationship with each other as members of staff, in our relationship with our young people, in our relationship with our parents, it was really important that everybody felt included, they felt respected, and they felt they were listened to. Now, I can guarantee I would listen to the parents when they were not happy with something going on in school, and at the outset, there were lots going on in school that they're not happy with. I always made sure I would listen. I didn't always agree, but I guaranteed they would be listened to. And many of the parents, as a result of that, being encouraged to come to school and getting a chance to say what they wanted to say. And in many cases, we had to visit the homes of the young people to try and begin to bridge a gap between the school and the home. Right, so leadership was critically important at every level, not just senior level. The caretakers, the cleaning staff, they had a critical role to creating that environment that was conducive to learning. We believed that the environment was dirty, if it was graffiti strewn, we'd be sending negative messages to our young people. So we had to ensure that the moment they came to the school, they walked into a place that was clean and fit for purpose. The recruitment and retention of quality people were critical, because we could talk a good game, we could write really good policies, code of conduct, code of expectation, etc. But unless the experience in the classroom was of a high standard, we knew we would not make the difference that we needed to make. There was one problem. Given the reputation of Hammersmith School, it was very difficult to attract, let alone retain staff. And for the first few years, I had a great difficulty in getting people to come to work at the school. The situation got so bad that we had something like a third supply teacher on a daily basis. Some supply teachers are fantastic, they do it for a very good reason, but others are not fit for purpose, but they're qualified. Then we had a third of the staff who were on short-term contract and a third were permanent members of staff. That kind of mix didn't offer the continuity and the consistency in approach and support that the young people needed. Yeah? And in fact, in some cases, in some of the classrooms taken by supply teachers, the situation was actually going backwards. Those classrooms, what was going on in those classrooms was undermining the ethos that we were driving forward within the school. As a result of that, after much consideration, I decided I would remove all the supply teachers from the school. I would then have to look after those kids in the school. And I decided to warehouse them in our dining room. So for a number of lessons in the day, 1, 2, or 3 classes would be looked after in the dining room by a senior member of staff. The other options open to me was continue with the supply teachers, who I believe was damaging what we were trying to achieve within the school. And the other option was to send the children home, which was not an option at all. So I took a really tough decision to look after them on school premises during the course of the day where we did not have permanent staff. So the staffing situation was critical and completely undermining what we were trying to do. I decided that in light of those challenges, I would need to create some sort of incentive for teachers to join the school. So I came up initially with a bonus system, which basically said any member of staff who joined the school and spent 3 continuous years in the school, they would be entitled to a bonus of £3,000 per year. At the end of 3 years, they would get £9,000. That's what they would have accumulated, providing they were still enrolled for the beginning of the 4th year. Through that incentive scheme, I was able to recruit and critically retain staff within the school. The retention was critical because we had to do a great deal of work with our teachers to ensure that everybody was on the same page, to ensure that the approach to the young people was consistent right across the piece. So when the students went from one classroom, one subject area to another subject area, they would get the same level of support and the same level of encouragement, and that was consistent. In order to do this, we had to have continuous development of our staff within the school. So professional development was critical. I'm very conscious at the time that I'm running out of time, so I'm going to have to speed up a bit, yeah? We had to have clear specification of what success should look like across the organization. So there was no doubt when a student was in this area, what was expected of them, when a teacher was teaching in this area, what was expected of them. We had transparent monitoring process with clear, agreed success criteria. Ownership of these goals, these were not just things handed down to staff. These are targets that we arrived at collectively through discussion, where we talked about what we need to do with our young people to raise their aspiration, to give them the support, and critically, to give them the challenge that they needed in order to see themselves as active learners and people who could actually achieve. So ownership of these goals was quite critical. We decided also that we would benchmark not against similar schools in challenging situations like ourselves. We decided we'd benchmark about the very best because we wanted to be the very best. So in order to do that, we needed to look and behave like those very, very good schools in less challenging areas with more students who were disposed to learning at the outset. Right, so when it came to our staff, they needed to have clarity of purpose. They needed to know why they were there, and they were there to transform the life chances of these young people. It is a sense that many of us felt like we were missionaries trying to do the work that was necessary to support, to encourage, and ensure that the students had a positive view of themselves as learners. We also recognized that we needed to work with the parents to convince them of what we were doing. So everybody had a very clear idea of what they were doing within the school. These people had to be resilient. Things went wrong all the time, especially at the beginning of the journey, and they needed that bounce-back ability. They needed passion. They had to care about what they were doing. They had to understand how important our work was to the lives of those young people, many of whom were born to fail, and they were on a track to fail. And we had to interrupt and disrupt that conveyor belt which was leading to failure. So they needed passion. They needed energy. This sort of work takes a lot out of you. A lot of energy, a lot of commitment, yeah, and very, very long hours, which is not easy to deliver when people have their lives outside of the classroom. There was a need to be able to feast on crumbs. Initially, very few things went right. Those few things that went right had to be celebrated, had to be used as motivation for the next set of challenges one was facing. And you had to be optimistic. And that optimism wasn't at the outset warranted by what was actually going on, yeah? So, but you have to believe that you could actually do it. Believe that collectively, working together, everybody playing their place, we could actually make the difference. So, in a nutshell, conscious of time, what worked? Continuous professional development. Always looking to improve what we were doing in the classroom. Ensuring that the students became active learning, not just passive learners within the classroom situation. We were able, for long periods, to retain the best people. So the in-service training that we didn't walk out of the gates at the end of a term or at the end of a year, but they stayed within the school and were supporting the young people. We had those clear specification what success looks like. We had transparent system of monitoring with clear agreed criteria, constructive feedback that informed follow-up discussions and support when necessary. Ownership of the goals and targets were very important. At the end of the day, we made a significant impact on the lives of the young people that came through. It was only possible because everyone believed. Sorry, that's a lie. The vast majority of people believed in what we were trying to do. They believed in our mission, and they actively signed up to it, going beyond what was expected as a matter of daily routine. They cared about the success of those young people. They owned the failure of the young people, and they celebrated the success where that success lay. We had significant buy-in from the parents. We realized that we had to go beyond the classroom to support our young people. When they were coming to school late, very often they were in the sweet shop buying sweets to come to school because they didn't have a proper breakfast. So we started a breakfast club so youngsters could come to school early, they could have something to eat before the day began. That really helped the behavior of young people in school. Parents saw that as reaching out into the community, helping their youngsters. That increased their buy-in. And it was important that we had buy-in from the local community to support us. So the support we had within the school, the culture in the school, we extended out to the wider community. As a result of working beyond above the call of duty, over a sustained period of time, we were able to make significant inroads into the lives of those young people, to support them in their aspiration for a better life. Thank you very much. Right, thank you.
Thank you, Sir William. So my first question to you, there seem to be quite a lot of synergies between what you were saying and the NHS. Such you were talking about low teacher morale and low student morale, which is quite a similar picture to what's happening here at the moment, is we've got quite low staff morale and quite low patient morale. And people say it takes time to change a culture of organisation, but you have done it really quickly. So what tips have you got how you change a culture of an organisation?
Thank you for that, Harry. I have to say, correct here, it didn't come across overnight. It was a lot of hard work, over a period of time where we were able to demonstrate through our behaviors, our relationship with each other, that this was the most productive way forward for all of those concerned. So these things are incremental and they take time to get embedded in the organization. And once they're embedded in the organization, there's a need to constantly reinforce those guidelines within the organization. So it takes time, it takes commitment, but it is actually possible, especially if you're just dealing with one organization. It is possible to make changes there. When you're talking about system-wide, then the challenge becomes that greater. But because the challenge is great, it doesn't mean it cannot be done. You need people who believe, people who are passionate about what they're doing, people who understand that the work they're doing has significant impact on the lives of other people, and it matters to them. So it was a task that took a number of years to achieve.
And once you left, how did you ensure that the progress was sustained over time? It wasn't just a one-off.
Well, I did that because every time I tried to leave, things went wrong. Yeah? So I stayed in that school for 18 years. And the reason why I stayed there for 18 years was because the job was never done. Every year, we had another cohort of young people who came to the school from very fractured backgrounds with low expectations, yeah? It was, for many years, not a school of first choice, yeah? So very often, the young people were people who failed to get into other schools or whose parents didn't really care that much about education. So for us in the school, every year we had to renew our commitment, renew our values within the organization and that vision that we had. So it was continuously working on that problem and recognizing it's never done. And after 18 years, I thought, I can't go on. Yeah? So I actually moved on, and other people stayed on. Now, during the time I was there, some 18 senior member staff became head teachers elsewhere within it, within the education sector. And that's something we were very proud of, because what we were doing there is training people to be future leaders. The young people, training them to be future leaders, but the teachers within the school, we were also tooling them up. And as part of our retention package, one of the things we did a number of things, was to support people doing postgraduate qualifications, additional qualification. We paid for those qualifications and gave people time off to attend those courses. So the culture, the changes took time, and even when they were embedded, they still needed constant reinforcing and feeding and nourishing. Yeah.
So something else you said about having a really strong senior leadership team, because we've had a lot of reviews in the NHS on management and leadership, such as the Messenger review last year. So what are your key qualities in your senior leadership team?
Well, the people, quite frankly, had to buy into what we were offering. They had to own the culture within the school, the expectations that were in the school. And I'm bound to say, some people got through interviews, and within a year or so, they were no longer in the school, yeah? Because they walked away from it, because it was more challenging, there was more expectation on them than they were prepared to actually commit to the school. And I thought that was no bad thing, because they come to the school with the best will in the world. They see what they have to do on a daily basis and say, oh, okay, I can't do this, I'll go elsewhere. That was the result, because it then gave me the opportunity to employ someone else who could possibly fit the specification and deliver over time, yeah? So it wasn't something that everybody could actually do. In fact, given the level of expectation within the organization, a relative minority of people could actually work successfully in a school, because not only did they have to motivate themselves and keep their aspiration and expectation, they had to do that with the staff below them, and above all, with the young people. One of the critical things that we had to achieve was to ensure that young people believed in themselves. They believed that they could achieve. They believed that they could learn. Yeah, that was really important. So senior management was critical, but then every tier below was critical. As I said, the caretakers, the support staff, really important. The dinner ladies were wonderful in our school. Yeah, wonderful.
And final question before we run out of time. We often talk about the NHS being an anchor institution, and we need to leverage the wider community. So how did you leverage the wider community to support your leadership, as quite often there can be adversaries in change leadership?
Okay, that's very hard to do. Everything I've talked about today, I've talked about it really quickly. I should have stressed the challenges, the difficulty, and how much work had to go to making the achievements we made. In terms of the wider community, it was a question of actually visibility. Because it's one school, and many of the kids came from this white city estate, I was physically present on the estates where these kids were from. I would knock on the doors if they were not in school on time. Yeah, I would be on the estate at the end of school. My senior staff were deployed all around the school to ensure that the young people, when they left the school, behaved in the neighborhood where the school was located. We were at the bus stops at the main shopping area, very visible, taking ownership of our young people. The local community, the parents saw that, it was reported in the local newspaper that this school, these people within the school cared enough, and they were owning what those young people were doing. The fact that parents then started coming to our school for parents' evening, for events within the school, celebration within the school. In addition to that, we were able to employ staff who were able to go into the community, into the neighborhood, and make contact with those hard-to-reach parents who were reluctant to engage with school for a variety of reasons, some to do with their previous experience at the school or in their own schooling. So everything that we achieved in the school took time, it took resources, and took a lot of energy and commitment.
Thank you. So unfortunately, that's all we've got time for. However, my top 3 takeaways is what I'd say is that it requires leaders to be visible, that we need to be there, not sit in ivory towers. We need to be in the communities as well. So like Sir William said, we need to actually go into the communities and talk to people. And my final takeaway is it's not just one person that can make the change. It requires a community to make that cultural change. So please let me know what your top 3 takeaways are using the hashtag NHS ConfedExpo. And please give me a round of please give William a round of applause.
I'll give you Harry, yeah. You were great, Harry. Thank you very much. Thank you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.